Yo.
Deadlock is a game that technically does not exist. Well, it didn't when I was originally writing this script, but as I was doing that, and in the middle of making this video, Valve officially made Deadlock public in the most Valve way possible, by not saying a goddamn thing and throwing up a Steam store page with next to no info or fanfare about it. Bravo, Gaben. Regardless, Deadlock was basically an open secret for months now. There have been gameplay videos and leaks about it scattered all across the internet. But where are my manners? I'm getting ahead of myself. For those in the audience who are unaware, let me recap everything that we know so far. For a long time now, people have been hearing rumors about an upcoming Valve game that we now know as Deadlock. It went through many codenames in the past, such as Citadel and Neon Prime. I'll go into more detail about the gameplay elements later in the video, but essentially, it's a brand new 6v6 competitive third-person MOBA hero shooter hybrid, made by Valve and designed by IceFrog, one of the founding fathers of the MOBA genre. Now, depending on your gaming background, any of the following words, MOBA, hero shooter, might make you super excited and interested, or perhaps might disappoint you, or maybe even make you a little angry. But I'm here to tell you that this game is something you should really be looking forward to. Whether you're someone who doesn't like those two genres of MOBAs and hero shooters, or perhaps you're an Overwatch player looking to jump ship, maybe you're someone who's never given MOBAs a try and finally want to dip your toes into the genre, perhaps. Or you're just an angry TF2 fan. I know you're out there. I'm one of you too. This game is quite honestly super early into development. I don't actually think any of the hero models are finished yet. It's still unoptimized and many of the in-game assets are just not there yet. But despite how early in development this game is, its mechanical and tactical depth far surpasses anything that Deadlock's would-be competitors might have. The in-game art and models aren't finished, but despite that, the presentation and just vibe of the game just oozes through with a very unique art style and setting. I don't exactly know how to describe it. New York demonic noir fantasy would be the best way I could sum it up. It has more mechanics and gameplay strategies than Smite, the current most popular third-person MOBA. The mere fact that verticality plays a big role in this game is huge. Its heroes already have the complexity of other contemporary hero shooters. And it's crazy how a super unfinished and untested game seemingly has more love and care put into it than Overwatch. Oh, I'm about to make a lot of fun of your gameplays here today. I mean, shit, this game already has some bussin' ass, on God, no cap, high key, low key, glow up, vibe, drip, lit shit, riz memes already. I'm so sorry, those two jokes back to back was a little too much for me. So, Internet Wanderer, if you'll allow me, I want to convince you to give this game a chance, to see the possibilities that this game has and how it can act as a bridge between many different genres. How this game can become the next big competitive game, and how I genuinely believe when this game comes out, and it will, it's gonna make major strides in the gaming world. I'm also just really happy that Valve is making games again in general.
Hi, it's Gabe in your lane. It's Gabe Newell.
Hello, Internet Wanderer. My name is Argonax. I make a bunch of videos talking about games, such as commentaries, essays, and shorts. I hope you like this video enough to do the YouTube things, and hey, I understand getting into this game's a little difficult, given that it's a closed playtest. So if you're really having a hard time getting into the game, get in touch with me in the comments down below, and I'll try to help as many of you guys get into this early playtest as possible. Within reason, of course. This game is magnificent, and I want as many people as possible to play it. So, to recap YouTube things, I'll try to help people get playtest invites, subscribe. Anyway, back to the video. The game is currently in a closed playtest phase right now. The only way to play it is if you get a direct invite from Valve, or if you have a friend who already has access to the game and invites you to it. And for months, this game technically did not exist. Valve, the ever-secretive company, has never confirmed or denied its existence. And yet, even when the game was under wraps, it was still making headlines and skyrocketing in player numbers. A game that did not exist but had a player count that can be compared to Overwatch 2 or TF2 is staggering to say the least. Whenever you booted up the game, Valve would actually pop up this message specifically asking you not to talk about the game. But all of this has changed, and now Valve is fine with all feedback being welcomed. And thus, this video is the product of this newfound freedom. I'm one of the lucky few that was able to get into this playtest about a month ago, and me and my friends have been thoroughly enjoying this game. And that word playtest must be emphasized, because that's exactly what it is. This isn't a beta test, nor a paid early access period. When I was originally writing this script a couple weeks ago, I was originally gonna find ways to circumnavigate this whole Fight Club-esque restriction about not being able to talk about the game directly. So what I was gonna do was talk about the wider gaming community's general sentiment and overall vibe about this game's non-existence, and as well the broader implications and expectations this game has, especially since I consider myself to be very well versed in Valve games. So any game that comes under this logo has a lot of expectations placed upon it. But that all changed. You can now openly talk about the game directly. Look, it has a Steam page even. Ooh, ah. And recently, the game is about to hit a record player count of 100,000 players, or by the time this video comes out, it had already surpassed that. It is insane how well this game is doing. And it's not even out yet. And I know what it's like to be part of an early Valve playtest. I was one of the few people who got into the Dota 2 closed beta all the way back in 2011. And Dota 2 was far more complete than Deadlock is. So the mere fact that a game that is far more unfinished and unpolished is this well received already says a lot. I'm unsure if Valve meticulously picked and chose who gets the invite into the playtest. Maybe if you got a ton of hours in Dota 2, and maybe that makes your chances of being invited to the playtest more likely. Regardless, other than Valve themselves directly inviting you to play the game, it seems like the only way that you can play the game is if you have a friend who already had access, and they invite you into the playtest. There are entire subreddits and Discord groups all dedicated to getting others into the playtest. Forget about e-begging for Game Girl feet pics. Begging Papa Gaben for playtests to his new game is all the rage now. And I'm willing to bet if you're anything like me and you already have access to this game, you'd invite your friends that you know will love Deadlock. You could be someone who already has a background in MOBAs or hero shooters, and therefore you probably have a lot of friends who play the same games as you. So why not invite them to the playtest? I know I did. I invited damn near everyone I play Dota with. And in doing so, Valve is doing a masterstroke of ingenious guerrilla marketing. Because of the almost 100,000 players currently playing this game, I would wager that a lot of them are here due to natural interest. There's no hype, no fancy trailers, no Dorito chips ads artificially building up the interest for this game. So the growth of the interest of all the players currently playing, or at least a vast majority of them, I would like to believe, is all natural, like your mom. So why should you be excited for this game? Well, I would like to present to you the two head honchos of this little operation, Valve and IceFrog. First and foremost, this is a new Valve game. For most, that would be enough. But some of you might have some doubts, and rightfully so. Valve, despite being a beloved company by most of the gaming community, have still made some flops in the past. Your Artifacts, your Ricochets, Counter-Strike, Condition Zeros, etc. But I'd argue that Valve games, even the flops, have a certain level of quality and polish that most games can only dream of. And most of the people who have played Deadlock would agree that they can see the quality hidden beneath all that playtest jank. I myself am very familiar with the designer of Deadlock, IceFrog. He's the guy behind Dota 2, and one of the founding fathers of the MOBA genre. I've seen how he approaches game mechanics and finds new ways to tweak the game. Sure, with some bad decisions in the past. For you Dota players out there, that would be the haha ho-ho sniper, Superman Sven, fountain hooks, Radiance octa-core Manta-style alchemist, and just techies in general. But for the most part, most of the decisions he makes are very innovative and honestly push the game in ways that is super healthy for gameplay diversity and just making things creative and new. I mean shit, look at the character pick ban diversity in Dota tournaments versus League of Legends tournaments. And you can see how he finds ways to make all characters, or most of them, completely viable and interesting to play. They all have their own place in the game. So he makes really good improvements to Dota and his games in general, and I think Deadlock will be no different. He was around when Dota was still a mod of Warcraft 3 all the way back in 2005. That's a very old game. with many game engine limitations. And where there's limitations, creativity flourishes. So, with his decades of game design experience and knowledge, I'm super excited to see what he could do with a brand new IP and brand new perspective. And I mean that literally. It's the third person now. Another more Valve-centric thing that's notable about this game is that it has a fairly active development team behind it. It has an official Discord that has actual Deadlock developers and other Valve employees, and they're all actively interacting and engaging with the community over there. For many, that sounds like a given for most other game companies, but this is Valve, okay? They only seem to interact with the outside world when the planets align at noon every other 7th Friday of the year divisible by 5, okay? This is very rare for them to do this kind of thing. It's wild seeing Valve being so open about sharing their inner workings of their game. They constantly post concept arts, early test builds, and other bits that they have no reason to share with the fans, but they did so anyway. It's really, really refreshing. But that's all outside of the game. The real reason you're here is to hear about the gameplay itself. Well then, let's get into it. So, the gameplay. The gameplay is indeed a MOBA hero shooter, and I must emphasize that it is a MOBA first and a hero shooter second. So while your character might have abilities just like in Overwatch, your hero is heavily dependent on items in order to further augment their strength. Your assassin won't be two-tapping enemies without them. Your tanks will crumble without any sort of durability boosting items. Many of these items act as stat sticks, further augmenting what your hero's naturally good at. Is your hero a long-range spellcaster? Well, these items will help your spells shoot further, hit harder, and last longer. Items can also be used to cover up the weaknesses of your team and your individual hero. Pesky enemies with powerful channeled spells get the curse item and shut them down. Are you getting exploded by burst damage? Well, we got shit that will make you invincible, for the most part. Are you sick and tired of waiting for that respawn timer to tick down? Well, go outside and touch grass or something. Or, just buy this item and that grants you a second life. And the list goes on. Items are absolutely essential to this game, and they can change from game to game depending on what your team's lineup is and the enemy team's lineup. And in order to get stronger items, you're gonna need gold or souls in order to buy them. That means there is a money economy and itemization to keep in mind. Those are just things that you're gonna learn naturally as you play the game more. However, one thing that is super important to learn about is the map. There is only one map. I know that many MOBAs usually have more than one map, but those other maps tend to be secondary game mode maps or fun side activity maps. All MOBAs, regardless of what they are, have one definitive map. Hell, when I play Dota, I actually spend more time looking at my minimap than I do the actual character. And I find myself doing that a lot in Deadlock as well, much to my detriment because, I can't aim for shit now. So far, the hero selection works as such. You pick a minimum of 3 heroes. You can pick more if you want. You can highlight which of the heroes you have selected if you want to have a preference for them via highlighting them in the roster. The game will then pick one of these selected heroes once the game starts. There are no mirror matches here. And because of how you pick the heroes, this also means you cannot just main one character. You have to learn at least a few heroes in order to really play this game properly. All heroes have 4 abilities, with some being passives. You gain levels via farming souls, meaning the more money you make, the more levels you gain. Leveling up grants you more ability points that you can use to upgrade your spells. The higher tier upgrades costing more points, up to 5 for an individual spell. So you can choose between evenly upgrading your spells or funneling all your points into just one spell. Heroes might have archetypes, meaning that they're naturally good at a given role, but nothing is set in stone. Much like a famous Dota 2 Sunflower once said,
"Well, that's just a weird game. And you can do a million things, and everything can work."
And I think Deadlock is gonna be the same. You could play Ivy as a typical support, which I believe she was designed to be, buffing allies and saving them from danger, but you can also build her as a slippery, stunning assassin, bombing enemies from above. Both teams have a base, item shops, and a patron that acts as the win or lose condition for both teams. You win the game by either destroying their patron or getting yours destroyed. The map has 4 lanes, all with zip lines that allow for faster traversal between the various locations. The creeps, or troopers, spawn in waves and try to push into these lanes. The further your troopers push in, the further your team's zipline can be accessed. The map itself is quite complex, with various alleyways that connect the lanes, underground subway tunnels, and multi-level buildings with indoor hallways. There's also these smoke and gray barriers obstructing vision and essentially acts as fog of war for the game. This map is very complex. I've almost put in 40 to 50 hours into this, and I am nowhere near close to memorizing all the routes and paths available to you. There are these guardians and walkers along the lanes that act as point defense for important chokeholds and thresholds along the lanes. There are also neutral monsters and map objectives scattered across the map that offer your teams various benefits, from more souls to team-wide buffs. Learning the overall flow of the game is what makes the macro elements of the game shine. The objectives that can be taken, risks versus rewards, understanding the ebb and flow of the lane equilibrium. And it is absolutely essential that you learn the map and how to farm efficiently, how to rotate in order to help your team, how to be aware of where your enemies could and couldn't be. Are all the enemies missing on the map and you're pushing in a lane all by yourself? You're about to get ganked. Understand how the lanes are going. Do you need to push a lane with your entire enemy team as a single unit? Or do you need to defend one of your lanes that's being pushed in? These are all macro decisions and strategies that need to be emphasized, and what separates Deadlock from other types of hero shooters like Overwatch. But the micro elements of the game are equally important. You can't expect to do well if your aim is shit. You need to make sure that you can land your spells, control your movement, manage your stamina bar, which allows you to dash or double jump. Make sure that you can land those ever important last hits to gain more souls. You see, trooper and hero kills all give souls when they're killed, but they also release souls that you can physically shoot in the air for even more souls. But the challenge comes because enemies can also shoot these souls, essentially stealing the gold away from you. This is a mechanic ripped directly from Dota. The denying of enemy gold is so important and can completely shut down somebody's early game if done properly, whether that be your early game or the enemy's. All characters have guns and melee attacks. Everyone has infinite ammo, but also everyone has different gun mechanics. Some might have shotguns, others might have burst fire rifles, others miniguns and lasers, others use projectiles, others are hit scan. Managing your gun's magazine capacity is super important, since the last thing you need in a gunfight is an empty clip. It also feels really bad when you want to get those bonus souls, but they get shot away from you because you're stuck reloading. Also, as a quick side note, I've always hated games with infinite ammo mechanics. It just encourages a bullet spam mentality, but at least in Deadlock it actually serves a strategic purpose, as heroes are balanced in the laning phase because of their clip size. Heroes with low magazine capacities will naturally be at a disadvantage since they can't last hit as often or as well as those with big magazine capacities, but you can still outplay them by waiting for them to reload. The laning phase becomes this dance between lane opponents, shifting back and forth of harassing each other, getting farm, looking for kill opportunities, while also being wary of the map for incoming ganks by your team or the enemies. As for melee, all characters have a quick and a charge-up melee attack. It's useful when you need to secure a last hit when you're low on ammo, and all melee kills ensure that you get the bonus gold that would normally come out as a soul. It also deals a shit ton of damage to enemy heroes, especially the heavy charge-up attack. But be wary of the parry that all characters have. It lasts a short bit and has a cooldown, but if a melee attack is successfully parried, the attacker is stunned and receives bonus damage for a short duration. I think some people are gonna compare this game to Smite, the biggest MOBA that uses the third-person perspective, but honestly, I think Deadlock takes the third-person MOBA concept and truly utilizes the 3D aspect and third-person perspective the most, as Smite can easily be played from a top-down view. It does nothing to leverage the third dimension of verticality, which Deadlock very much does. Certain heroes are all about flying and staying airborne. And as well, there are various jump pads around the map, allowing you and your team to jump across rooftops. The amount of hiding spots and Overwatch areas on this map is insane. As for hero abilities, honestly, there's way too many for me to cover and go over, but rest assured, all of them are bullshit. Every single hero has their own specialized brand of bullshit. Dota has a joke said by its community that if everything is OP, then nothing is OP. If the enemy hero has a unique brand of imba bullshit, then that means so do you. And I think Deadlock will follow this philosophy all the way to the full game's release. Now, another thing that's very important to this game, I believe, is the presentation. Now, I know that the various character designs are unfinished, but what's here is already very good, and there's even upcoming character redesigns that are even better. The world building as well is superb. I mean, look at the deep lore that awaits you within. In the world of Deadlock, everything was normal until some point in the late 1800s, when a portal storm to the spirit world opened in the middle of Central Park, New York. An event called the First Maelstrom, causing everything occult and demonic from the supernatural plane to come to ours. And after a while, the entirety of New York integrated the occult into their everyday lives. It's 50 years later, and it's the 1930s, and now we have supernatural convenience stores, meats and other produce brought to you directly by demon summoning, Oracle-informed newspaper companies, branded horn wax for all of your devil friends, and 30-minute family and friends resurrections, free estimates, satisfaction guarantee, or your money back. It's such a unique and creative take on this normalized supernatural setting. Even the characters, take Seven for example. His backstory was he was a powerful occultist sentenced to death via electric chair. His soul had to be binded 7 times to ensure that the execution was successful. It was not, and now he electrifies all who stand before him. Vindicta was a victim of Jorn Hathorn, one of the actual head judges during the Salem witch trials. Vindicta's soul was brought back to life via the First Maelstrom, and now she seeks revenge on Hathorn's descendants and followers. Other great character bios include the likes of Lash. Nice. And Yamato was the child of the 4th Hokage, tasked with finding all of Sukuna's fingers in order to gain the power of All Might and bring justice and balance to the Force. Or something like that. I know, I can't read Korean.
Do you have call?
I gave some examples earlier, but I'm really excited to see how these heroes will get their designs finalized. The Viscous characters will apparently get a Cthulhu-esque redesign, but his chipper and cheerful attitude will remain the same. A few of the characters are still using their models back from when this game was still called Neon Prime, and thus have a very cyberpunky appearance. They will get redesigns, but their overall theme and identity will remain the same. The aforementioned Yamato will lean heavily into the female yaokai theme. Think of the slit-mouthed woman. Shit's awesome if you ask me. My favorite character, Bebop, will probably keep his overall silhouette and design, but the more techie aspects of his character model will probably be changed. And speaking of Bebop, who again is my favorite character, I can hook people from halfway across the goddamn map and laser them to death, it's so fun. All of the hooker style characters, which includes your mom, of the MOBA genres are Pudge from Dota, Blitzcrank from League of Legends, and now Bebop. And what's funny is that they're either Cockney or a robot, or in Bebop's case, both. Yes, I know, Bebop might be Australian, but I don't care. Australians are just Kiwi propaganda. The sound design is also really good. In my relatively short time playing this game, I already recognize ability sound effects without even looking. Here I've blackened the screen, but you can still hear how each spell feels proper to the hero it belongs to.
I'll give him hell.
I'm holding him!
Same thing with the map. It properly reflects the New York occult theme, with billboard ads everywhere and the architecture feeling properly supernatural. It adds a lot of character to the map itself. Even the basic troopers are great. They're these little candle head dudes, and the wax of the candle grows shorter as their health goes down. It's just a great little touch to have. Obviously, the game is going for a cartoony art style, and due to it being a competitive multiplayer game, bleeding edge graphics weren't the main focus here. However, there are some nice graphical touches they do here and there, and again, the game is far from finished. The overall charm and art style is very strong and cohesive, and I want to give praise where praise is due. There's also supposed to be an interactive visual novel story mode in the game, evidenced by the numerous leaks of this. You can find these videos online, I'll link one in the description below. Many of them already have proper voice acting and the art is completed, and might I say, it looks really good.
I imagine I could drum up some interest. When next year are you thinking?
Oh, it's in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's simply impossible. The sort of folks you want to speak with are taking sabbaticals or doing field research. And as we both know, no one's leaving the Black Chateau to come to your event.
For every expert you bring, I will donate $250,000 to your department.
And what a gala it will be. I'll get you a list of names soon.
Valve already has a history of making visual novels or comics for their games, such as with TF2 and the Dota comics, which are all really good. I've said this a lot to my IRL friends and online friends, that I don't like hero shooters. All of them. Apex Legends, Overwatch, Valorant, Concord. But you see, Deadlock, and I guess TF2, have one thing that these games don't have. Extreme bias on my end. No, but they just have that sauce, the X factor that really places these games ahead of their peers. It's for that reason that I actively enjoy playing these games. Maybe it is that I'm just an unreasonable Valve fanboy. No, that's definitely the reason. But there's a reason that Valve games are considered to be so good and well regarded, because they're generally very good. And as a quick reassurance to my fellow TF2 fans out there who are rather displeased with Deadlock, please don't be mad at Deadlock. It isn't trying to replace TF2, it's not a competitive or a successor to the venerable class shooter. TF2 is quite an old game, especially by shooter standards. And while it has been neglected by Valve for a while now, you can take a look at my previous videos for more detail. Nudge nudge, wink wink, self-plug. Team Fortress 2 has actually gotten a fair bit of attention from Valve recently. With the whole Fix TF2 movement and them fixing the bot crisis, the 7th TF2 comic is probably on its way. It just seems to be a renewed interest by the overall community and Valve themselves for this old game. I'm essentially saying is that Deadlock won't cut into TF2's action and vice versa. And perhaps Deadlock's potential success could lift up all of Valve's multiplayer games, which includes TF2. And if Deadlock just isn't for you, then that's completely fine. TF2 is peerless in the sense that it's really a class-based shooter that no other game can truly match. And I doubt that will ever change, regardless of Deadlock releasing or not. And the last thing I want to cover is the community. There's already a sizable unofficial subreddit about the game, and you can tell that this community is passionate. It's got the aforementioned official Discord, which is great, with everyone being super helpful and excited about the game, the Valve developers helping whenever they can, offering insight to the game and informing the fans of upcoming projects and content. And then you got the memes. Anytime a game has an active meme community means that there is a healthy culture within that game. It means that players are participating in in-jokes and adding more flavor and overall community depth to a game the more that these memes are shared and used. And also, anytime a game is in its early phases, the memes just tend to be more dank, for a lack of a better word. So regardless of all these things that I've presented, there's probably still going to be skeptics and those who will never play the game. And that's fair. All I wish is for you guys to at least give this game a try and a chance. This game isn't what people wanted Valve to make. It isn't Half-Life 3, although that might be changing, with that coming out sooner rather than later. But damn, it's still a good game in its own right. And I fully intend to keep playing this game as it's only gonna get better with time. And I cannot wait to see what this game has in store in the future. Thanks for watching, Internet Wanderer. Do the YouTube things.